in general, right now, what we're looking at is just trying to maintain the health and viability of the oil and gas sector in Texas. The thing about the legislature, you'd think they would be reminded every day when they look at their budget and see how big of a surplus there is, or how big the
Where all
rainy day fund is,
where all that came
where all
from.
that money. Yeah, but they don't. That's
Yeah.
not how they're wired. So we have to keep reminding them of the importance of it. We have to combat the environmental lobby that sometimes has a very loose association with the truth. It's a funny thing. I talked to you about how we have to go in there, I have to go in there, always tell the truth. The oil and gas industry as a whole is the same sort of thing. You can't go in there and really fudge the truth on very many things, but the environmental community can go in there and say whatever the heck they
Whatever they
want,
want.
and nobody cares. They're like, oh yeah, well, and then if a friendly legislator is asking them questions about it, they'll say, where did you get that information? And they're like, oh well, we got it from this report on the internet, and that report on the internet came from some other report on the internet, and it is very
Yeah.
frequently not remotely based in fact. But so it's always a constant education effort with them. We try and do things as an industry that are beneficial to the long-term health of the industry. We do that from a transportation side about getting if you've driven to the Permian anytime in the last 10
Yeah.
years, you can see that those roads are beat to
It's like
hell. And
it's like Thunderdome out there, man. It's
exactly. So, trying to get money to make sure that those roads work, stuff like the electricity reliability, about promoting the use of gas plants to keep the market for our product going out there and secure, and using gas not as an exclusive provider, but electricity. But it's something that we got a whole lot of in Texas. We've got an infrastructure built around getting that gas where it needs to go. And contrary to a million lies that were in all those hearings, gas doesn't freeze up all the time, and it's not the cause of the electricity problem, but it can be the solution and a big part of the solution. So that's something we work on, a lot for promoting that side of the industry.
Mhm.
But luckily, right now we are at the dead point of the season. It's more about politics and less about policy right now. Everyone's worried about getting reelected. I've said this a million times. Every legislator out there, whether they're Republican or Democrat, rural or urban, black, white, Asian, or whatever, their first job when they wake up every day is to figure out how to get reelected. Um,
How do I sustain my existence?
yeah, exactly. In the words of Blazing Saddles, Governor Lepetamain, we got to keep our phony baloney jobs. But
Well,
yeah,
that's their focus every day, and it's good to hear, at least for right now, that we can go about doing our jobs and worrying about what we do, because God knows it's hard enough doing what we do, and I think it's people lose sight of the value of what you guys do, and having someone championing your industry at the government level is important, and we see what happens when you neglect what's going on at your government level. Things get out of hand. They're not going to go away from these things they want to try to push, and the things they want to try to regulate you on. And if you're not diligent about combating that and being aggressive and on the offense about our positions and what's important for us to continue to live our lives and do what we do, and you'll lose freedoms. You'll lose it bit by bit. And
yeah,
so it's really why I wanted to have you on today, is to kind of for people to understand what you do and understand how things work, and kind of understand. We hear bits and pieces of the things that come up, and they show up in different states. We hear it nationally, but to your efforts and the efforts of the oil and gas lobby in general, we're able to keep people informed and combat some of that as best we can, at least.
well, we're fortunate in Texas. We have a very, very strong oil and gas industry. We have a good legislature that is generally pro-business. And, there are not a lot of oil and gas professionals in the legislature, but most of them recognize the fatted calf they've got and don't want to mess it up. Um, it takes reminding sometimes for them, but they're pretty good. I did
Yeah.
allude to this a while ago. The legislature and the parties are in kind of disarray. Anyone paying attention to national politics has seen that the Republican Party is kind of a mess and trying to eat its own in its own way. Fortunately, the Democrats are so inept that they've not been able to take advantage of that in Texas. But it is becoming a problem. The today's modern Republican is very good for you as an individual. They really want to reduce your property taxes as a homeowner, but they're not as good with business, and they're not necessarily a Reagan Republican who is anti-regulation. They proactively step in to try and regulate some things sometimes that are political hot issues. Things like the sale of land to the Chinese. Um, that's just an issue where the government's going to step in and regulate. And you may be in favor of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the mindset of politicians and the most recent legislatures in the House and the Senate has not been averse to going in and regulating what they perceive as a problem away. And while we may not care about that, we care about it from an ideological perspective. From an ideological perspective, we would like to see them in a position where, like I said before, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's expand that to all aspects of what the legislature does. And
Yeah.
then that takes education. We have a whole lot of new members that are coming in. A whole lot of incumbents got beat because they weren't perceived as Republican enough, which is in some ways ludicrous. But Texas is a very conservative state. I've lobbied in other states as well. And, you go to Pennsylvania and ask them what a Republican is. They look at Texas and the Democrats are more Republican than they are. Um,
Yeah.
that's
It's all
generally.
relative. Let's not get started on Pennsylvania. What a circus up there.
Oh, I thank God. Most people are happy to be Texans. I thank God every day that I get to work with the Texas legislature because they're good people, and the new people that are coming in that are very far right and beat someone that was perceived to be not right enough. I've met almost all of them. They're good people too. They want to do the right thing too, and they're going to be good legislators. And when we come back in session next January, it's going to be okay. They're going to be good people, and the industry and the Texas Miracle will continue to flourish for a few more years at least until the Democrats take over.
I think that's what we're all scared of. We see everything that's happening with, the migration to Texas, and we all wonder what effect that's gonna have on us. And I guess it's
Ray,
to be determined.
editorializing here, I would say that at some level, that may end up being the thing that saves the Republican Party in Texas. I mean, the Republicans have worked very hard to ideologically, at least in South Texas, not necessarily talking about immigrants because they are their own breed, but ideologically, South Texas is in a lot of ways very in line with the Republican Party. They are conservative in nature. They are hardworking and they just want to work. And there are aspects of the Republican Party that feel exactly that same way. And the Democratic Party, to some degree, has not done a great job and has kind of alienated themselves to some degree. And I think, fast forwarding 10 years, just my guess about what things look like, similar to Ohio and Pennsylvania and some of the Rust Belt states, you're going to have very hard Democratic strongholds in the big population centers: Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, maybe Fort Worth, although they've done a good job of keeping them at bay there. And then the rest of the state, including even South Texas, may be pretty predictably Republican,
Yeah.
which is going to be interesting.
yeah, I guess we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah.